What's up, Central Illinois? Derek Hayden here. Garrett and I love sharing all the awesome stories about our Central Illinois business leaders. We want to make sure our Central Illinois businesses are protected so we can continue to share all these great stories. That's why you should consider another great Central Illinois company, Pekin Insurance, for your business insurance needs. That's right, you can get all the commercial insurance coverages that your company needs from an excellent insurance company headquartered right here in Pekin, Illinois. Pekin Insurance offers comprehensive business coverage that lets you focus on what's important to you: employees, profits, and peace of mind. Ask your local Pekin Insurance agent about their commercial insurance products or learn more at pekininsurance.com. You can also contact your favorite podcast hosts, Garrett or myself, Derek, and we'll go beyond the expected for you.
Welcome to the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, where business owners, thought leaders, and community champions from across Central Illinois come to share their story. The Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Anything less would be uncivilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? I'm Derek Hayden. I'm here with Garrett Ulmer. We are your hosts for the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, powered by Zambu. Zambu is a delicious grapefruit or wildberry vodka-based spirit infused with a Brazilian buzz button. It's smooth, tasty, and leaves you with a signature tingle. Learn more at zambuliquors.com. Zambu, taste the tingle. All right, Central Illinois, today's guest is the CEO of RoomReady, based out of Normal, Illinois. Ladies and gentlemen of Central Illinois, please welcome Aaron McArdle. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're excited to have you
joining us.
Yes, we had a really good recommendation from our buddy over at Beer Nuts, Andy. And anytime Andy sends us someone, we're like, that's probably someone we need to get on the show. So we're excited to learn your story a little bit. Before we kick into your story, though, I'm going to hand the mic over to Garrett, and we're going to take you through our speed round.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Okay.
Like Derek said, we're going to have a couple questions here, 6 questions in under 60 seconds. And for our listeners to get a better idea of who Aaron is. So you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right. First concert you ever attended?
Stone Temple Pilots, Springfield, Illinois, the State Fair.
Awesome.
Nice.
Favorite movie?
Smokey and the Bandit.
I don't think we've heard that one yet. Good
Yep,
deal.
it's new.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Rum Raisin.
All right.
Okay.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Favorite social media platform?
Facebook.
All right. And now I know this is typically where we ask why Central Illinois. I know you said you grew up in Central Illinois, but tell us a little bit about where you grew up and why you're at where you're at now and what you like most about it.
I grew up in Edinburgh, Illinois. My dad was the superintendent at Kincaid South Fork, and then was principal and superintendent there. We moved from Edinburgh to Lexington, Illinois.
Okay.
The big city of Lexington, with 1,500 people instead of 1,000 when I was a freshman in high school. And then I went to college for a year. I went to Augustana and realized about the same time that the school realized school wasn't for me, I realized school wasn't for me. And so ended up quitting school and working for a Central Illinois guy, Harlan Geiser at Bloomington Computers, installing wiring for computer systems. And then that turned into working as an electrician, and then just kind of always stayed around Central Illinois until recently. So that's why it's here or there.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great, Aaron. Appreciate you taking us through the speed round there. So we mentioned you're the CEO of RoomReady. You already gave us kind of a background of where you grew up. Tell us about professionally, I guess, first off, what RoomReady is and how you got established and tied in with RoomReady.
So RoomReady, at RoomReady, we install meeting room technology primarily now for Fortune 500 companies. Post-COVID, we're moving way down market, obviously, right? Because everybody uses video now. Mm-hmm. But initially, it was just Fortune 500 companies. And the way I got there was once I quit school, I started working for Bloomington Computers. They were considering getting out of the cabling part of the business. And so I started looking around for a electrician to work for, because that's where a lot of the work was going. I took a job at Ryan Electric in Springfield. Dennis, worked for Dennis Ryan there he hired me when I was 19 or 20 to run their cabling division and start doing low voltage cabling for him. He was an awesome mentor. I learned a ton from him. I still, to this day, have no idea why he put up with me in that job. I did that for a few years. My brother Philip was going to seminary. He bumped into Luke Zeller at church. Luke, his dad and his uncle owned Zeller Electric. So I started talking to them. It took about a year to make the decision to go to work for Zeller Electric. And then I worked for Zeller for 4 years and built up that business. And in the beginning of 2006, I went to Dave and John and said, I think I want to work for myself. I'd like to buy out the division of the business that I'm running. And eventually they said yes. And we started that transition. And then in 2007, very beginning of 2007, we separated, they allowed me to buy the name from them. So I had Zeller Digital Innovations was the name of the business. And we started just doing low voltage cabling, physical security, fiber optics, that type of thing. And then we grew the business really quick after I bought it from them. They're ultra conservative, like business, like 10% growth year over year, always be profitable, always, control everything. And I was like, gas pedal, like, this is too slow. I can't do this. Like, I got to go. So when we bought them out I had a business partner at the time, and Mike Strauss is his name. He's a great dude. He ran the office because all I knew how to do is be an electrician. I had no idea how to pay taxes and payroll and stuff. Right. So Mike was my business partner. And then we ended up taking a bunch of work for Walmart. We wanted a contract with them, and we grew from 8. I think we had 8 or 12 employees right when we started from Zeller that came over with us. And 3 of those guys still work with me. I was actually just talking to HR about how we're going to put a 15-year club together, because we just 15 years in business, and there's 4 of us that started the business that are still there. Nice. Anyway, we went from 12 people to 60 employees, wiring Walmarts primarily around Florida. And then that was 2007, 2008. And then with the 2008 kind of like crash, we didn't end up, Walmart came to us and said, you can have as many stores as you want, but your prices have to go down 10%, right, to grow. And there was no way. So we said, we'll do as many stores as you want us to do, but our prices are going up 10%. And they picked 0 as the number of stores they wanted us to do. So anyway, so then the evolution then was, okay, what can we do? What can we put focus on to be unique? And at the time, we thought the audio video was a really big opportunity. It's a really fragmented market. The contractors that were in the space, at least locally in Central Illinois, weren't good at dealing with construction sites. They didn't know how to fit into the process of building a building and how to communicate well. And we did, because we did that on the cabling side, right, and on the electrical side. And so we started to focus on audio video systems. And then we did that for a couple of years, and that part of the business grew really rapidly. And then we realized that meeting rooms were something that nobody really paid a lot of attention to. It wasn't that sexy. It was kind of boring. And we had an opportunity to start just doing meeting rooms. And then, you want to be good at something, you focus on it, right? So we did meeting rooms, got to the point where the rest of the business, the cabling and security, we weren't doing it at a level I felt like we were competing with, like knowledge wise, we weren't the best at it. And so we just kept like pointing that light on the AV, right? And it was a meeting room. And so now, and then within that, we developed the brand, the RoomReady brand. And then, And the rest is history, as they say, right? Like you just keep focusing on it. And so now we install, well, we have employees in 17 states. This week we'll be in 25 different states installing meeting rooms. And that's all we do. So.
Wow.
So how many total employees does RoomReady have?
125 full-time employees right now. And then we have at least 20, somewhere between 25 and 50 subcontractor partners that are in the field with our guys every week doing rooms. So
wow, that's awesome.
Wow. So you said at this point in time, you've got employees in 25 different states doing installs. So what is your geographic region? Is it just United States or beyond the United States or just wherever you're needed?
We have, so we do the continental US and Caribbean with our own technicians.
Wow.
And then we have a partner network, and we have a company that we've licensed the RoomReady brand to that's based in London and called RoomReady Global. And then they have offices throughout the globe, I think in 12 different countries. And then we leverage them to do our global deployments. And that's about somewhere between 10 and 15% of our business, depending on the year. But
Wow.
when you do work for Fortune 500 companies, I mean, there's very few of them that are only in the US, right? And so every one of their first questions are, tell us about your global strategy. And when we didn't have a global strategy, a lot of times they would just say, like, next, please, right?
Uh-huh.
Even though we knew, and even when we say, like, it's only 10% of your rooms, they're like, yeah, but if you don't have a strategy, you can't be our partner. And so we had to develop one. And yeah, so they do a couple hundred rooms a year for us probably, and good partners. And I think we've worked with them now for 5 or 6 years. So
Wow.
I'm interested to know, how did you get into the Fortune 500 companies? What do you do to attract yourself? I mean, what marketing, networking, things like that to get into these companies?
So in 2011, my brother used to work with me, Jay, and Jay's brilliant. Jay runs product development now for Poly that just got purchased from HP for $3 billion, right? So,
Wow.
So Jay's a sharp dude. And Jay worked with me, and he and I were going back and forth on how do we set ourselves apart in the marketplace. And so I don't know if you guys ever heard the saying, right? The best way to make progress is to have a novice and an expert work on a problem, right? And so Jay was the expert by far, right? And I was the novice by far. And so I just kept questioning, like, but why? And we finally got to a point where we realized, like, so we had a relationship with Cisco Systems. One of the executives there said, I asked him, how can we be relevant to Cisco? And he said, make rooms that don't suck. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, you tell me, you're the expert, like, you're the one trying to be relevant, figure it out, right? It's like, wow, okay, that went a lot different than I hoped it would. I was hoping him to, like, tell me. So Jay and I go back to Jay, and we're trying to solve the problem. And he says, and the Cisco guy says, I want to be able to put a meeting room in any place in the country. I want you guys to give me one price anywhere in the country. And he said, the obvious way to do that is you inflate the price, but I need you to be competitive. So if you can figure out how to be competitive in any place in the country with a price and compete against a local integrator, that would be relevant. And so the way you do that is you eliminate variables, right? So you start thinking about how do we eliminate the unknown? How do we create consistency? And Jay had this idea that if we mounted all the equipment, this is right when plasma TVs were coming out. If we mounted all the equipment behind the plasma TVs, we could eliminate cable runs, installation time would go down. And then there was some other, it's hard to explain, but the way the systems are wired and designed was really complex. And there was a way to take that complexity out. One, by putting the equipment behind the display, and then two, using some of the technology different than was done then. That was done. Now it's the industry standard to do it that way. But when we started doing it, nobody else did it. We actually have 11 patents on the process and the equipment that we developed.
Yeah.
So, sorry to make a short story long. We invented a mount that goes behind a TV that holds all the equipment, allows us to do installs more effectively and efficiently and consistently than other integrators. We patented that mount. We still use it today. And then we patented the process by which you plug in the components, the order you do that, which then creates consistency. So then we could go to a big company like a Fortune 500 company and say to them, I can put a room in any meeting room in the US for the same price. You give me the list of rooms and I'll give you a quote to do that. And that was revolutionary at the time. And basically we were the ones saying, everyone else, all the other integrators were saying, that's impossible. You need to do this big survey. You need to do a site survey in all these rooms. We'll create a plan, hire us to create the plan. And I said, give me a list of rooms and take a picture of each of the rooms and send it to me just to confirm that I can do it. And we can do it. And so, you know, when you have, so some of our biggest customers, right, which we're not supposed to say names. So very large retail, sporting goods, clothing manufacturer based in Oregon that we do work for. They have 6,000 rooms globally. Wow. Right. So when you start to talk to them about the consistency that you can create across the whole organization, and it's not regionalized or even localized, that becomes a pretty compelling conversation, even compelling enough to the point where they'll give a small business from Normal, Illinois, the opportunity to do their rooms. Right. And that was what we had to overcome. And then once we got over the technical part of it, big companies like that don't want to sign up vendors, right? It's a pain in the ass to do that. So we came up with a strategy where we would work through large IT companies, which is still our strategy. So we work with companies like Presidio and CDW and WWT because they have a buying agreement with all of those big companies. And if we could just negotiate one time our relationship with them, then we knew we could always sell it in. So once we got that hurdle out of the way, then it was easy for that Fortune 500 company to work with us, far easier than any other AV integrator. So then that's what gave us the ability to build from Normal. So
wow. Holy cow. Well, you know, the one thing that sticks out to me in what you just talked about, it goes back to how you were describing RoomReady when you were first kind of designing the business. You said, if you want to get good at something, you want to focus on it. If you're good at something, you might as well focus on it. So that's one thing that I think anybody listening to this can take from this is they're focusing on doing, you know, one thing really, really good. You don't have to design this and that and be this to everybody and that to everybody. If you're good at it, go all in with it. And then you can expand from there. So that's one thing, you know, I'm assuming I understand which brand you're talking about in Oregon. Most people have an idea. If you just Google athletic brand based in Oregon, you'll figure out what that brand is.
Exactly.
And you have a couple options, but you can narrow it down.
So that's like you said, a small company from Central Illinois. I think a lot of people in Central Illinois limit themselves because they think, oh, you know, I'm from little old Edinburgh or little old Lexington or little old Shelbyville. If you want to do something and if you've got the drive and motivation, you can find something. Use the tools that you have at your disposal to go all in on that one thing. And then you could be working with a brand like that and building a business that works with Fortune 500 companies. Yeah. So that's what everything that you've said, that's the one thing that sticks out to me is focusing on your niche. So do you feel like that's been a big part of your success is focusing on that niche?
100%. I mean, focus is what helps you solve problems, right? And then the reality also that it's not going to be one problem to solve, right? Like for us, hey, we had this really awesome solution. We could do it better than anybody, but then we couldn't get the customers to buy from us, right? Because nobody's going to sign up a vendor. We couldn't even do a proof of concept unless we want to do it for free, right? Because they wouldn't buy it. So, okay, how do we solve that problem? And then you have to get creative. And then everybody told us like that was a terrible idea. Nobody's going to bring a competitor in, right? And so it's just you have to be unwilling to hear, when you hear no, you have to be unwilling to accept it. It's like, okay, well, what's the reason why they're giving me the no? And then you can decide if it's BS or not. And they might be right? Like, well, nobody's going to want to do that because here's the obstacles. Like, okay, well, now I have some other problems to solve. And you just keep going, right? And if it's worth it to you, you'll do it. right? And so, I mean, I had a young family. It was always worth it to me to keep going, right? I really don't care that much about meeting rooms, right? I mean, I like it; it's cool, but it's not my passion. It is my brother's passion.
Sure.
I just wanted to be successful, right? And so to me, it was like, can I provide? And specifically, it was, I want to give my family opportunities that are uncommon, right? And I want them to be able to do things that other people don't get to do. And so that's what my focus was, in why I never took no for an answer. Or if I did, I was always like, okay, well, sorry, Aaron, my wife, this irritates the dickens out of my wife. Some people like, Aaron, that's against the rules. And I would say, the rules don't apply to me. I'll figure this out. Right. And it makes her boil when I say that. So see how it goes after she listens to this podcast. But
no,
great.
Derek and I talk about it a lot. You talked about a solution, you've talked about a niche, we incorporate a lot of those things into what we do as well. And yeah, it's one of those things that if you're willing to figure out the solution, price always comes into play. But in the long run, if you can help somebody make something that is a headache to them easier and better and can offer a solution, it's amazing that at the end of the discussion, price kind of goes out of the door. How can you make their life easier? And it sounds like that's what you guys have dove into. So that's awesome.
It's value, right?
Yeah.
Our rooms aren't cheaper than anybody else's. They work better. The mount that we put up behind the TVs doesn't require backing. So now you got to buy a $800 piece of hardware from us, but you don't have to spend $2,000 on the room, right? And so to be able to communicate that, we're more expensive, but here's why it's a better value. That was really, I mean, and then layered, right? So
yeah. So I want to shift a little bit, in your CEO shoes. You mentioned you've got employees across 17 states, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So, obviously that's more common today than it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
What are some of the hurdles that you run across when you're managing employees across, pretty much the nation and trying to keep everybody motivated? What are some things that you've run across hurdle wise, and how do you solve those?
Well, one, you shouldn't hire unmotivated people, because then you have to spend time motivating them, right? So just hire people that are motivated, and you can check that off your list of things to do. Two, I mean, CEO's job is to control culture, right? So it's always take the time to talk to people and get to know people. And I don't do that as well as I should probably, but I have a really great people and experience team for HR that drives that culture, right? And then that comes from me through them, and they spend the time on the blocks and tackles with that. And then I think just being willing to be vulnerable, right? We tell people in our company way more than what most organizations, especially private organizations, tell. I mean, every quarter we tell all of our employees revenue, profitability, how much we made for the quarter, how much we're making for the year, what our projections are. A lot of financial details go into that, and so we want to be transparent with people, so I don't think we're hiding anything. It's fun to say those things now, and it's good. It was terrifying when we had bad times financially, right? During COVID, our goal was to build, prior to COVID, our goal was to bill 1,000 hours a week of billable field time. That was kind of our speedometer of if things were going well or not. The third week into COVID, we were billing 10 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
10 total. We went from 890 to 10, like 400, 110, right? So
wow,
that was terrifying, right? And so we did a weekly call with our employees through that. Hey, we don't know what's going on, but we're going to tell you what we heard or what we're thinking, right? And I think that was really, really great. And then we came in and we told everybody in that we were going to have to do a rolling furlough. We were going to avoid layoffs, but everybody was going to have to take 1 week off every 5 weeks, right? And that would be a 20% reduction in cost for us, one unpaid week. So you could plan it if you want to request it, if you had a vacation. And I remember going into that meeting thinking like, this is going to suck so bad, and just waiting for the backlash. And all I got was like like thanks and praise that nobody got laid off and that we could all do it as a team. And so I was just sometimes you just gotta wade into it, be vulnerable, and like be willing to get hit in the nose, and then sometimes you get a hug. It's nice.
Yeah.
So
Wow. I can imagine. Yeah, that would be, and I'm sure a lot of businesses are now moving. I feel like maybe you are a leader, especially in Central Illinois, to have a more remote workforce, even pre-COVID. Now you're seeing some of the business mindsets going to, okay, we can loosen up, we can let people work from home remotely. I know for us, it's good because we have the confidence that our people can still get their job done, even if they are working from home. And I know that was something that COVID, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad that came from it. That I think is a good side of businesses understanding, okay, I can loosen up the grip a little bit. My people are still engaged. They're still, putting in the time and effort to make this thing run. So I think that's a good thing. And sounds like you're a leader in that side of things.
Well, when we sell video conferencing, right? That's our business. And so prior to COVID, our customers were those companies that were progressive in that and were leaning into giving their people that opportunity. So one, it came natural to us because we had already been participating in this work from anywhere movement that a lot of the technology companies were trying to promote. And so we knew it was possible. What COVID did was fast forwarded that movement a decade. I mean, we have another customer that's a really large financial partner based, I don't know where they're based, probably in New York, but they have a huge facility in Phoenix that we support. 25,000 people work there, right? Wow. So think about like State Farm size of organization. And they had said, we will never, so we did video conference rooms from them. We'd done 500 or 600 in their offices. But it was always just so they could communicate from office to office. And so we were talking to them about different things. And the guy said, like, Aaron, we will never have work from home. We're one of the oldest financial institutions in the country. It'll never happen. COVID hit, they moved all 25,000 people to work from home for a whole year. And they were one of the slowest companies we work with to come back to the office. So, I mean, it just forces you to do things different. And I sent a quote to our team, like, hard times kill weak companies. They challenge, they challenge good companies, and great companies improve because of it, right? And or something like that. I'm murdering that, but yes, I mean, they were a great company, right? They took on that challenge and thrived. So
yeah. They always say that the most dangerous words that a business owner can say is, well, that's the way we've always done it, right?
I 100% agree with that.
And COVID changed that phrase big time.
Yeah, it was not an excuse. Well, we say that, but there were a lot of businesses that had the mentality that went out of business, right? Yeah. And so we've always done it this way, and then we can't do anything about it. And like the restaurants that moved quick into carryouts, and I have a friend that owns a bar up in Lexington, Illinois, and they started making signature cocktails and put them in growlers, and they went to the city and got an ordinance changed so that they could sell packaged liquor. Like, again, like they don't take no as an answer, right? And so they were able to make enough money to stay open through it, and build brand and all that, because they weren't willing to do it the way they'd always done it.
And I bet their customer loyalty and everything went up because of it as well. Yeah, that's crazy. So the beginning of COVID sounded like was pretty tough on you and your team. As you went through COVID and started to, the video conferencing became big, did you see a big upswing, towards as everything started to loosen up a little bit?
So during COVID, a lot of people thought, man, this has got to be great for you because it's video. When you hang TVs on walls in the biggest cities in the country, it's not that great for you. Nobody was at their office, right? So we were there for a really long time. We were lucky enough that the census of work that we had several really big construction projects in big cities that had to get done, right? They weren't going to just let half a building sit and rot during it. So we were able to redirect resources to do that. We had one customer that allowed us go in and do like 2 or 3 years worth of maintenance because we had a support agreement with them. So we said, instead of, like, obviously there's nobody in your office, we can't like monitor your meeting rooms, make sure they're successful, but why don't you let us go through and like fix everything that's broken that we couldn't because there were people using the rooms. So they let us do that. And that got us through COVID without any major blows financially. And then as the world started to come back, it took a little while because people were so skeptical, right? And yet all these false launches, like, oh, we're going to be back in June. Oh, no, wait, August. No, wait, December. And then it just kind of kept doing that. Now the challenge is all those companies that kept like pumping the brakes. Now they need everything right away. And there's this supply chain catastrophe happening, right? And I mean, we have manufacturers that have 58-week lead time on hardware, right? Wow. I keep telling them, I'm like, that's like saying your 5-year-old is 60 months old. Like at some point it's a 1-year lead time, dude. So
wow.
Anyway, but yeah, so it's good now. We're busy. We have a ton of work. We're blessed in that. And I am just grateful that we were able to keep going, but we kept our foot on the gas. We also doubled marketing and sales expenditures during COVID, right? Like we cut other things, we cut operational things, we cut benefits for in comp for some people. So anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
Great.
So we are actually, Aaron, we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. So before we hop off of here, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with that you really want, any messages, tips, ideas, whether it's about Central Illinois or otherwise?
We used to say that one of the things that brought us success was that we took the Midwestern work ethic and exported it to the rest of the country, right? And that nobody was going to work harder than us, longer than us, period, right? And I really believe that if we wouldn't have been pulling our skilled trades out of Edinburgh, Shelbyville, Springfield, Lincoln, it would have been a lot different future for us, right? So we got a lot of really hardworking guys and gals that came in and were just like, I don't know if you want to say they had a chip on their shoulder, but they showed up and they proved that they could work. You're used to wiring gas stations in Springfield, Illinois, and now you're in a 80-story building in downtown Manhattan and dealing with and to hold your own, right? Like it just goes to show that there's a lot of really talented people in Central Illinois, and we were able to capitalize on that and by their willingness to work with us and take a risk. So leverage it, right? Realize it. Don't take it for granted. So
yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite terms that someone labeled me last year, and I never thought of it, but I really liked the concept, and it's exactly what you said, Aaron. They said that the term was Midwest grit. I was like, man, that makes you feel just like, watch me do it. Just watch me do it. We're going to make it happen. So I love that term.
Yeah,
we did a job down in Florida. We were wiring Walmart and we were behind, and we had, we probably 15 or 20 guys on site. And we had 4 guys come from Central Illinois down to help get caught up. And I got there the second day, and the guy that was in charge of that job for us said, I don't know what you feed these boys, but this is ridiculous, right? And they just flat out worked everybody. And so anyway.
Then
hard work pays off.
Hey, these are just our normal Central Illinois boys. Wait till we unleash the Amish guys on you. They'll outwork everybody.
The good guys were busy. You got our scrubs. No, that's not true.
Nice. Awesome. Well, all you listeners out there, make sure you're subscribing to the CIBL podcast on your favorite podcast platform. While you're there, please give us a quick review. You can also follow us on social media, mainly on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can connect with Garrett and I personally there as well. Until next time, Aaron, you've officially been civilized. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL Podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.